You know, the AI world is kind of stuck right now. It feels like we have to make this impossible choice. Either we get incredible innovation but with zero control, or we get total control but everything's locked down and not transparent at all. Well, today, we're going to dig into a pretty radical proposal, a third way that might just change the entire game.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll get a handle on the big problem, this great divide. Then, I'll introduce you to this new solution and its 3 core pillars. After that, we'll dive into the tech that makes it all tick, what it could mean for the market, and of course, the big challenges that are still in the way.
So, let's start with Section 1, the Great AI Divide. Right now, the entire AI space is pretty much split down the middle. There's this huge conflict, this status quo that's just not working, and it's forcing everyone to pick a side between 2 options that, well, they're both flawed.
So, is the AI world really facing an unsustainable choice? Oh, absolutely. We are completely stuck between a rock and a hard place, between 2 extremes, and honestly, neither one is the right answer. And this isn't just some techie debate. It's actively holding back a safer, more fair, and more competitive AI ecosystem for all of us.
Okay, so let me break it down. On one side, you've got these open-weight models. Think of them like public blueprints for an engine. It's awesome for innovation, right? Anyone can tinker with them. But the problem is, the original creators have almost no control over how they're used or misused, and it's super hard to make any money from them. Then, on the other side, you have the closed API models from the big tech giants. These are total black boxes. You get control, sure, but it comes at a huge cost. Your data is at risk, and all the power gets concentrated in the hands of just a few massive companies.
And this whole situation creates what the paper calls a dichotomy that hinders an equitable AI ecosystem. Look, this isn't just some philosophical argument. It is a straight-up market failure. We're being pushed into this false choice between letting progress run wild and having basic safety, or between open access and giving creators any control. It's holding the entire field back.
All right, so how do we get out of this mess? Well, that brings us to Section 2. There's a new proposal on the table that offers a third way. It's this really clever attempt to get the best of both worlds, to combine that amazing innovation of open models with the control you get from the closed ones.
And that solution is a new framework called OML. It stands for Open Access, Monetizable, and Loyal AI. The core idea is actually pretty simple, but it's super powerful. Imagine an AI model that you can run privately, right there on your own device, but it's been hardwired to follow the rules and the payment terms set by the person who created it.
Ultimately, the whole goal of OML is to foster a more democratized, self-sustaining, and innovative AI future. It's all about breaking that stalemate we talked about. The big idea is to build a much more balanced, much more fair ecosystem where independent developers can actually make a living, where we as users get to keep our privacy, and where really powerful AI can be rolled out more safely.
Okay, Section 3, OML's 3 core pillars. So what do open access, monetizable, and loyal actually mean in practice? These 3 ideas are totally interconnected, and each one is designed to solve a specific piece of this puzzle. Let's break them down one by one.
So, the whole framework is built on these 3 principles: open access, monetizable, and loyal. Each one directly tackles that big divide we were talking about. You get open access for privacy, monetizable for the creators, and loyal for safety and control. When you put them all together, you get a completely new kind of digital asset.
All right, first up, open access. The paper describes this as being like a compiled binary, not source code. Here's what that means. The model can run locally, right on your computer, so your data never has to leave your device. That's a huge win for privacy. But, and this is super important, this is not open source. It's like installing an app. You can run it, but you don't get the underlying code to mess with. Pillar number 2, monetizable. This is where it gets really interesting for creators. This pillar allows for granular economic controls, essentially baking the payment rules right into the AI itself. This could unlock totally new business models. I mean, imagine paying tiny micropayments for each time you use the AI, or having subscriptions for pro users, or even freemium models where the basic features are free, but you pay to unlock the really advanced stuff.
And finally, we have the 3rd pillar, loyal. Honestly, this is the real technical linchpin that makes the whole thing work. A loyal model is programmed to check for a valid permission, a digital thumbs up basically, from its owner before it will run correctly. Think of it like a new car that just won't start without the right digital key. If the model doesn't get that green light from the creator's server, it simply refuses to function properly. This isn't about stopping people from copying the file, it's about controlling whether the file can actually do its job.
Okay, Section 4, the tech behind OML. So you might be thinking, this sounds cool, but how could you possibly build it? This is where things get really fascinating. Because it's not just one field of science. It really shows how you need this mix of cryptography, hardware design, and AI research all working together. So how do you actually make an AI model loyal? Well, the paper lays out 3 possible paths, and each one comes with a really important trade-off between security, speed, and what you have to trust. The first option is using special hardware called TEEs, or Trusted Execution Environments. Think of it as a secure vault inside your computer's chip. This is fast, but it means you have to place your trust in the hardware manufacturer, like Intel or AMD. The second route is pure cryptography. We're talking really advanced stuff like fully homomorphic encryption. This gives you mathematical proof of security, which is the absolute gold standard. The huge problem? It's incredibly slow right now, way too slow to be practical for most AI. And that brings us to the third idea, which is a new AI native approach. This is super clever. It basically uses the model's own massive complexity as a form of protection. It's very fast, but its security relies on ideas that are still pretty new and haven't been battle-tested for years and years.
And with all these models out there, how would you manage ownership and payments? This is where blockchain comes in. Now, importantly, the idea isn't to run the AI on the blockchain. That would be way too slow. Instead, the proposal is to use a blockchain as a kind of transparent public backend. It would act as a public registry to prove who owns which model. You could use smart contracts to automate royalty payments, and you could even have communities govern their own AI models through what are called DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organizations. Okay, let's shift gears. Section 5, reshaping the AI market. Let's imagine for a second that this technology actually becomes a reality. What does that mean for the AI industry? What does it mean for us? Well, the implications could be absolutely enormous. We could be talking about a complete restructuring of the creator economy for artificial intelligence.
One of the biggest promises of OML is that it could empower what the paper calls an AI middle class. I mean, this could be a total game changer for developers. It could give smaller labs and even individual creators a real shot at competing with the big guys. They could sell their work directly to users without needing a giant tech company's infrastructure, and without being forced to just give away their hard work for free. It's a direct challenge to the way power is structured right now.
And this doesn't just help developers, it can unlock all sorts of novel business models. Just think about it. You could have perpetual royalties, where an artist gets a tiny payment every single time an AI uses their unique style. Or you could have models that are fractionally owned, like shares of a stock, by thousands of small investors. You could even have entire AI organizations that are self-funding and are governed directly by their communities. The possibilities are pretty wild.
And it's not just about business. OML creates a new tool for what's being called computational policy enforcement. Basically, it's a way to enforce rules in the real world using code. For example, a sophisticated medical AI could be literally hard-coded so that it will only run if it can verify it's being used by someone with a valid doctor's license. Or a financial model could be built so that it's technically blocked from giving advice in a country where it's not regulated. The policy becomes part of the program itself.
But, and this is a big but, let's move to Section 6, the challenges ahead. Of course, turning this incredibly powerful vision into something real is not going to be easy. There are some significant hurdles here. You should really think of this more as a manifesto, a vision for the future, not a finished blueprint. The path forward is definitely complex. So, what's the biggest problem? Well, the core challenge is this tricky balance between security, performance, and trust. It's a classic trilemma. Right now, the most secure methods are just way too slow. And the fastest methods, well, they either rely on security ideas that are still unproven, or they force you to trust a single big company. Finding that sweet spot in the middle is going to be the key to everything.
And that leads us to the research roadmap. Getting from this idea to a real, working system is going to take a massive research effort. We need to rigorously test and attack these new AI-native security ideas to see if they hold up. We've got to find ways to make the super secure cryptographic methods much, much faster. And just as important, we need to model the economic and social impacts of a market like this and develop the ethical and legal frameworks to go along with it.
So here's the final question we're left with. OML presents this incredible path to a more democratic AI, but at the same time, it could also be seen as a new and very powerful form of digital control.
So while this vision for a more open AI ecosystem is revolutionary, it also raises these really profound questions about what it means to control, to own, and to share the future of intelligence itself.